Don't chew on that, Max.
Cooper loves that chew, too.
Oh, now he's into Cooper's food. Wow, he is loving it. What do you feed Cooper?
Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula. He never leaves a crumb. I love it because it's made with high-quality protein, nutrient-rich fruits and veggies, and wholesome whole grains.
Looks like we're switching to Blue.
Blue Buffalo foods are made with the superior ingredients your dog needs to thrive. Can your dog food say that? Visit feedbluefood.com to learn more.
An all-new season of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Mom talk has just been blowing up.
Whitney and Jen are on Dancing with the Stars.
Taylor is a bachelorette.
Saying that out loud is crazy. Like, that is huge.
But all the cool opportunities could pull us apart.
It's causing issues in everyone's marriage.
My whole world is falling apart right now. It's chaos.
Watch the Hulu original series, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
Nesta Archeron is forced into the cauldron during the war with Hybern, and instead of breaking, she steals power back, thereby changing forever. Months later, when the war is over, she lives alone in a shabby Valaris apartment, spiraling through wine, one-night stands, and isolation to drown out her guilt and trauma. When Cassian shows up to drag her to the river house, Nesta expects judgment, but does not anticipate Pharaoh's ultimatum. Move to the House of Wind, train with Cassian, and work in the library, or be shipped off to the human lands. Cornered and furious, Nesta agrees, feeling stripped of control all over again. Meanwhile, in addition to his duties as general and training Nesta, Cassian is tasked with a new role he feels ill-suited to accept: playing courtier. Hey there, we're a book talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously.
We bring the tools of literary analysis to the women-written novels lighting up book talk, from romance to romantasy. Think of it as your favorite fandom books treated with the same respect you'd give a classic in literature class, just with more humor and less homework for you, but still tons of homework
for us.
Yeah.
Each season, we deep dive into one book, breaking down themes, imagery, and character motivations. We also analyze the story through 2 different literary lenses, giving you more than one way to look at the text, but we're going to do more than that this year.
Hi, I'm Jack. I studied creative writing for my bachelor's degree and comparative literature for my master's degree. I am going to be looking through it, kind of through a feminist lens. Not kind of, I am. So one of the lenses I'm going to be looking at is a feminist lens, which takes a heteronormative view on gender, roles, stereotypes, and how they shape their stories. Just because it's a tool that I use does not mean that it represents the way I view gender. It does not. It is a tool for analysis. But like Amy said, we are busting out other tools. We have a tool belt.
Here's the thing. We've always had a tool belt. We just forgot to tell you what as we went.
The entire time we're like, Amy's using a hammer, I'm using a wrench. And then we bring up like a saw and we're like, why are you guys having an issue with this?
I'm Amy. I have a degree in creative writing and a master's in education, and I will be using mostly the Marxist lens to uncover power dynamics at play, which are sometimes obvious, sometimes hidden, like in metaphors, the use of food, or animal traits. I also, so far at least, have been looking a lot through the psychoanalytic lens.
Psychoanalytical. I bust out the religious lens today. I also busted out spatial environmental lens today.
Ooh.
And some more like nature environment. Like, come fucking at us. No, please don't. There might be some new people. You don't know this. If someone's listening to this for the first time and they're like, they are very angry. We've been doing this for a long time. And and not once did we ever decide it was important to tell the listeners that we were using other lenses. Not this time, because we forgot.
What's the thing I always used to say when we were recording our ACOTAR seasons?
We're dumb?
Yep.
Wait, did you forget or did you make me?
We're idiots.
Did I just fall for that?
Yeah, you did.
It's too early in the season. It's too early in the episode. I like how if there's anyone who's new and we're trying to convince them to keep listening, we're like super smart. Together, we combine our 13 years of literary academic training with our fandom love to help you see your favorite books in a whole new way.
This is our first episode discussing A Court of Silver Flames, the first book in Nesta and Cassian's journey in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. In this episode, we're covering chapters 1 through 4.
We used to do like plot twists.
Controversial.
Controversial. I would say this is the most horny of her books.
I would almost say most divisive.
Yeah, most divisive.
Most divisive novel in the Court of Thorns and Roses series.
We need to add that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Future episodes.
All right. For a complete list of episodes and the chapter breakdowns, be sure to check out our Instagram at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk. Now, before we dive in, we need to talk about Spilt. Again, assuming that this is the first time you have ever listened to us and this episode, I need to drive this into you. We are going to have spoilers, perspective and interpretation, language, themes. Now, spoilers, though, it's very specific.
So spoilers. This episode covers A Court of Silver Flames, and we take the full context from this book and all the books before it. That is Thorns and Roses, Mist and Fury, Wings and Ruin, Frost and Starlight.
Mm-hmm.
If you have not read those, you should not be here. This is your only spoiler warning.
What? Yeah.
Everything else in the SJM universe,
any other books, any other
series that she has written, we will save for Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks. And that is our Thursday episode, our companion episode to today's analysis.
So you're safe right now. Perspective interpretations. These are just our takes, our personal readings of the text. We do not speak for Sarah J. Maas, and we know you have your interpretations too. We love hearing them, so please share.
Language. We use explicit language. And for all you new people, I'm sorry, this is who we are. So
we're not changing now.
We're
entering our 4th year. We are who we are.
We are.
Themes. We will discuss tough topics like sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death. We do our best to flag these heavier moments where we can, but listener discretion is advised.
As always, let's keep the conversation going. Tag us, DM us, or use the submission form on our website. And if you want exclusive content and live streams, you'll find us over at patreon.com/booktalkforbooktalk.
Can't get enough of analysis? Make sure to check out the Subtext Society Journal, where we write think pieces discussing the romance and romantasy genre as a whole, the ongoing conversations in the bookish community, and insights on the publishing world. You can read our latest articles for free with no subscription required. But to receive the new articles in the future, make sure to subscribe.
You can find us at thesubtextsocietyjournal.substack.com.
We like to ask ourselves one question for the whole book, and then we ask other questions every episode. But for this whole book question, we ask ourselves, what is the balance of character development versus plot-driven narrative in Silver Flames? And how does this compel the reader to feel about Nesta's journey? We're not going to talk about it until the last episode.
And we will either love ourselves or hate ourselves at the last episode when we have to answer this. We'll see.
My God. Just imagine 12 weeks from us now.
Ooh, a lot can happen in 12 weeks. For this episode, for today's chapters, we are asking ourselves this question. How do we, Jack and Amy, feel jumping back into Prythian? And does the text reorient us sufficiently?
Themes we see in this section include isolation and belonging. I can't believe we're here. I can't believe we're back. But we'll save that for the question of the week.
Yeah. We can rant about how we feel later.
I'm not feeling. I mean, I will say just for right now, today is February 1st. We were supposed to record last week, but horrible things happened in the world and we became activists. And I feels like I've never recorded a day in my life. Mm-hmm. Even though we recorded last week. And the fact that we're back to ACOTAR world is making it even more jarring.
I know. We record a lot, guys. Yet every time we start a new season, we're like,
oh, what are we doing? We recorded like 2 or 3 times last week. And
I know. Here we are.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know this. But here we go. We're starting off with the prologue, which I forgot existed. Until I opened up my book to start taking notes. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, we're only covering 4 chapters. And then I opened it up. Fuck! Hey, this is for all the new people out there. Ready? If you and you never listened to an episode, this is really important. Get your water, get your drink. Ready, everyone?
Take a sip.
First sip of the season. We're the only podcast that cares about your hydration.
This episode has been sponsored by H2O. All right, we are starting with the prologue. And technically, it's not called the prologue. It's just a thing that shows up between the map and chapter 1, which is an interesting structure choice. Don't know why she did it. We're just going to observe and move on. Now, one of the things that really stuck out to me while I was reading this section is the references to absence. It underscores some of the things we're going to find with Nesta throughout this book, such as the absence of belonging, or the absence of a safe space, or the absence of choice. Quote, not the bite of winter chill or even the burn of solid ice, but something colder, deeper. The cold of the gaps between stars, the cold of a world before night. So this is reference to Nesta going into the cauldron. This is such an interesting quote to me because the cold of the gaps between stars, the cold of a world before light, Nesta at this point is human. That is beyond human understanding. Nesta could not hope to even understand what those things mean. What I feel like going into this is she is becoming other. Her experiences are not entirely her own anymore as she takes from the cauldron. The cauldron is, before the start of the world. And so not only was she already othered, which we're going to talk about later, this is othering her even more.
She was never meant to be any kind of basic.
Nope.
What I love about this questionable, whatever we're going to call this beginning part, is that there's an absence of identity as well, particularly some of the men that she describes. Quote, the red-haired, one-eyed Fade male, aka Lucian, and, quote, the hard-faced Fade king, that's the king of Hybern. And then, quote, not sobbing Farah, not Farah's gagged former lover, not her devastated new mate. That was like a 2-in-1. That's Rhys and Tamlin. Like, neither of them get to say anything, get to have a name. Sorry, I've just realized I haven't said the words Rhys and Tamlin in so long.
Yeah.
It's like cobwebs. Now, the only ones who get names during this point are Farah, Elaine, and Cassian. And I think that's really important because Nesta will never tell you who's the most important to her, except for Elaine. But even then, kind of debatable.
Mm-hmm.
But we do get to see, we have to infer, because Nesta is an extremely unreliable narrator, and so is Cassian, and we have to infer what is her priority, and her priority are her sisters and her man.
Right off the bat, dropping clues. There's another absence here, and that's the hope for salvation. Remember, we're in Nesta's point of view. She's in the cauldron, or she's about to go in the cauldron. Quote, Nesta knew she was going into the cauldron, knew she would lose this fight, knew no one was coming to save her. Not sobbing Farah, not Farah's gagged former lover, not her devastated new mate, not Cassian, broken and bleeding on the floor. What a way to start a book where we see the heroes of Prythian at their lowest. That is her view of them at their lowest. And she's still human. So for the High Fae to be at their lowest, Nesta knows no one can save her. And because she's human, she doesn't even have a hope of saving herself.
Yeah.
So what must Nesta do? She must become a monster. The most primal she has ever been. And the opposite of what she was raised to be, which we will continue to see throughout this novel. Quote, she tore into the darkness with talons and teeth. The dark eternity around her shuddered, bucked, thrashed. She laughed as it recoiled, laughed around the mouthful of raw power she ripped out and swallowed whole. The cauldron struggled like a bird under a cat's paw. She refused to relent. I love this moment because we're getting so many contrasts. Nesta, her family, her family's family, they're all at their weakest. So what does Nesta demand? Payment in the form of power. And in the process, she overpowers that which is the ultimate power, the cauldron. The cauldron made life. Yet the cauldron here is a bird under her paw, which is a crazy way to start a book from Nesta's point of view.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that phrase, right? To laugh in the face of danger. Cue Lion King. Anyway, and that's literally what Nesta did, is like she is laughing in the cauldron's face. And this is a prelude to remind us what kind of person she is, because we are seeing a Nesta that fought the cauldron, the creator itself, and stole and laughed and everything and turned into the prey, or turned into the predator while the cauldron was her prey, to now a Nesta who's not going to try it all. So I think that it's all about contradictions that we're getting here. And it's a reminder that Nesta is all contradictions. She is someone who is considering herself as a predator, the person who's hunting, and she never did anything for her family to go help them be fed, right? And then here she is being like, I will rip raw power out of you. And then she's also like, I will not be waking up before 7. So
I reject
it. I can hear a wave of people being like, hey, there's nothing wrong with like sleeping in until like, they're so, you know what? 7 a.m. is such an interesting time. I consider waking up at 7 a.m. sleeping in.
Yeah.
The amount of people that are like, no, that's a normal time to wake up.
Or that's early.
Or that's late. Or early. Yeah, early. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So chapter 1. Before I even go into chapter 1, I feel like SJM went hard writing this book.
Hard.
She went hard.
HAOD.
Yeah. HAOD. She went hard, guys, because she was like, we're going to have every symbolism possible. And we are starting this book off with a threshold. Bitches love thresholds. Quote, Cassian raised his fist to the green door in the dim hallway and hesitated. Thresholds in literature tend to have meaning. SJM, especially in the ACOTAR world, more than any of her other worlds, thresholds have a lot of meaning there. And it's normally there to signify a big change, a big shift. And of course, it would make sense that the start of this whole journey would begin with Cassian at the threshold of Nesta's door.
Because he's the only one, really, who can approach it.
Yeah.
And demand that she walk through it.
Mm-hmm.
I already gave myself
I know. I'm like, are we done? That was beautiful.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Now, because we're in Cassian's point of view, we get to see the state of the apartment building Nesta lives in, which is a fascinating way for us to get a sense of how Nesta is currently perceived, aka through symbolism. Quote, the building on the north side of the Sidra River was in need of new paint and new floors if the creaking boards beneath his boots as he climbed the 2 flights had been any indication. But at least it was clean. Definitely grim by Valaris' standards, but when the city itself had no slums, that wasn't saying much. Now, throughout the start of the novel, there is a lot of focus from Cassian's point of view on the state of Nesta, her health, her appearance, her physical state, and his perception of how others are perceiving Nesta. There's a lot of layers here about Nesta. Now, this is all going to make sense because, as we know, because we've read this entire series, Cassian is a weapon. He's the general of Rhys's army. His body is a weapon. And therefore, he has to take care of his body if he wants to win battles. It is natural then for him to be concerned about Nesta, who is, quite frankly, not in a state to win anything. The general of the Night Corps is here to bring Nesta to Feyre for an intervention. We don't know that, but there's enough peppering in of clues that there is a sense of dread building up. When Cassian knocks on the door, he braces himself to interact with Nesta like she's a foe he can't win against. Quote, Cassian tucked his wings in tight, squaring his shoulders as he braced his feet apart. A traditional fighting stance beaten into him during his training years, now mere muscle memory. He didn't dare consider why the sound of those footsteps sent his body falling into it. One thing I love about Cassian's point of view that SJM does well is it's consistent to his experience. So he's often going to compare things to war, his training as a warrior, battles he's been in. And this is one such example. And what it's telling us is that he's terrified of Nesta. Like, there's something about her equivalent to a predator. He sees her as a predator that he is terrified of. For whatever reason in my notes, I was like, but he gets a thrill out of it. Maybe because he's not the only deadly person in the room. Maybe because he's not the most deadly person in the room. Who knows?
Okay, I'm going to take a quick pause from the prey talk just to kind of bring in a different note. We get this description of Nesta, quote, those eyes cold and sharp like a winter morning in the mountains. So many incredible uses of description of nature. And there's going to be a lot of association of Nesta with cold and winter. And in this case, mountains. And in this case, don't read my note. Look at me. Look at me. In this case, it's Cassian who looks in her eyes. You already saw my note, didn't you?
No.
Okay. So in this case, it's Cassian who looks in her eyes and all he sees is like cold and mountains and winter. But that's where he grew up. So he's looking as home in her eyes.
Yeah, I thought that.
Okay, fancy.
I meant like as I was listening to the audiobook, not while I was taking notes.
Clearly.
So you win that note.
Point 1, Jack, for the pity point. All right, let's continue.
I'm going to take a sip.
Someone out there was very riveted by that.
And you know what? They deserve to be riveted. Be riveted by Jack.
And also Amy, because she had the thought too.
I didn't articulate it.
No, it doesn't count. It doesn't count unless you type it in.
That's right.
And then it's kind of like, that's the one thing about whoever does their notes first. If you come up with a smart thought, at least you get to like claim it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other person's like, damn it, I have to come up with something else.
I was not the first person to write notes. You had your chance.
Now, while Nesta is a predator in Cassian's eyes, she doesn't treat him like he's a predator, which is interesting because he's the more deadly one, technically from a warrior's point of view. I love this moment when she tells him to leave her apartment so that she can get dressed. She says to Cassian, quote, go perch on a chimney, which I love because it's a little bird analogy.
Yeah.
Or, for other people, maybe a bat analogy. But a bird, go perch on something, sounds like a bird thing.
Yeah, no one thought that.
But you know what else was compared to a bird recently?
Cauldron.
A cauldron.
Yeah.
And so, we just saw Nesta attack and conquer the cauldron, and she is treating Cassian the same way. I think Cassian has a right to be terrified if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Cassian probably is glad his balls are in the same place as... I don't know why I thought that was funny when I was writing that note. I probably had a margarita or something. Cassian's probably just glad his balls are in the same place as when this conversation started. And nothing about this, no matter how thin and dirty and hungover Nesta might be, has diminished his view of how she is a predator. Quote, but if Nesta's power remained, still capable of leveling battlefields, Cassian knew better than to make himself vulnerable to another predator. This is so interesting because we don't get the sense that, he wants to bang her right now. He's just mostly scared of her, which, if we remember how Frost and Starlight ended, they fought, we might be disappointed in Cassian right now.
Mm-hmm.
While Cassian's out to grab tea for Nesta, we switch to Nesta's point of view. And we have an interesting confirmation that Nesta's perspective is not going to align with Cassian's perspective. Now, I ask, does this make her an unreliable narrator?
Yes. Answered it.
Yes, you did. You did. So when Nesta enters her bedroom, where her one-night stand is putting on his clothes, she senses his fear, quote, not fear of her, but of the male he'd heard at the front door. This is exactly the opposite of what Cassian thought of this exact same Fae when his point of view was about to end. He, quote, wonders if that poor bastard inside the apartment would indeed flee out the window, mostly to escape her. Now, we might not know who is wrong or right, but what we do know is that these two don't see the world the same way and that they assume everyone is afraid of the other person.
Mm-hmm. We're getting a whole new Nesta. I mean, Cassian is used to this Nesta, but we, the reader, are getting a whole new Nesta. The Nesta we knew before was modest. She does not have sex. She was the only one of her sisters who hadn't had sex. She was, shocked to wear pants. And now here she is being sexually free. This is in her POV, and she's thinking back on what went down the night before. Quote, recalling heated glances at the tavern, the wet, hot meeting of their mouths, the sweat coating her as she rode him until pleasure and drink set her into blessed oblivion, but not his name. She didn't remember his name. What a baller move. And it's okay if people don't remember people's names. That's fine. Sex or otherwise, it's all right. No one should be shamed for not remembering a name.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love about this is that we were putting masculine traits, quote unquote, masculine traits onto her, but it's also meant to show that she's out of control. So I actually kind of sat here and I was like, oh, you get some potential gender reversal, right? You have Nesta, who's sexually promiscuous, versus Cassian, who has not had sex in years and is much more emotionally open and vulnerable. But like, I also don't find it to be very role reversal either. I don't know if it's because I'm just so used to these characters and that's what I expect from them. But what I really want to take on, rather than like the gender reversal of it all, is this a bad coping mechanism? Because we are going to hear this over and over again of her being shamed over and over that she is having sex again. And I'm not a fan of that. Is she abusing it? Maybe, but I'm going to analyze this. So TBD.
We don't give men shame for their one night stands instead of going to therapy.
I know. Well, I mean, men, and then, we're getting to it now. I mean, later on, Cassian says, like, back in the day, Reese Az and I used to fuck women in the same room. And it's like, okay. And like, all of them be like, Nesta, we've been where you've been. We've used sex, drugs, and rock and roll too to cope through it. And yet it's not okay when she does it. It's just interesting. Like, it's not okay when she does it, frankly, because they don't like her. Reese, Amren, more. Azriel, I don't think Azriel gives a fuck about anything else, but like Amaran's fallen out with Nesta, so she doesn't really care about her. It's just, it becomes more slut shaming as it goes on, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think to play devil's advocate, I agree with you, by the way, but to play devil's advocate, going back to something you said earlier, this is the exact opposite of who Nesta was.
Yeah.
Right? When she was human, even just during the war. So the concern or the dislike of what is happening is because she's so far from who she was a couple months ago.
So Cassian's concern, because he doesn't have a dislike, he has a concern for this behavior. He never slut shames her. Oh, I'm about to argue that, but he there's no true shame in the sexual part. The shaming comes from Reese and Amren more than anything. And I had a thought. God, now I have to be smart again this season. Hold on. Your point was opposite of how who she was. I think because it comes from the motivation of who's like, it's one of those things that like, it's a claim and you can have a different motivation for the claim. Nesta's abusing sex. Coming from Cassian, that could be like, oh my God, that's like not who she is anymore. Like, she's completely changed. Coming from Reese and Amren and more, who just don't like her, they're like, I'm finding something else to have, like, here's another thing that she's lost it with. But the reason why I actually don't think she's necessarily abusing sex, and I reserve the right to change my mind as we analyze things, is that I think later on she has a very healthy view of her own sexuality. Nessa's relationship with sex, I very much like, and I think is very refreshing and not something we've seen in an FMC.
Yeah. I'm, damn it, going to add one more thing.
To agree with me or opposite of me?
Yeah, no. To agree with you, okay. I think to take it one more way, we're going to see later on in this season and in this novel that what really captures Nesta's attention about training is the physicality of it and how that distracts her from her mind. Sex is the same, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, is a coping mechanism, but really what it's telling us in this moment is the physicality, her need for that physical element, regardless of what it is.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like, who's to say that if it's right or wrong to do that? Like, who's to say that it's acceptable or not acceptable to use sex this way? It's not harming her versus like the alcohol could harm her. You know what I mean? Like, alcohol puts you in a dangerous, vulnerable position. You could literally get alcohol poisoning. I mean, I don't know what it's like for the Fae, but like, I'm just, and I guess like sex, you can be in a vulnerable position. I don't know.
Hang tight. We'll be back faster than a smoldering stare across a battlefield.
I had a meeting with a tax strategist today, and one of the things I was proudest to share with them is that I've been managing my money with Monarch.
Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. It brings your entire financial life, budgeting, accounts, and investments, net worth, and future planning together in one dashboard on your phone or laptop.
Monarch isn't your average personal finance app, and that's because it makes you proactive, not just reactive. It uses AI tools built on Monarch intelligence that is trained by the certified financial planners and advisors.
Monarch also sends you AI weekly recaps with a personal weekly summary that alerts you to spending spikes, big shifts in net worth, and upcoming expenses. It also tells me when I have a new reoccurring purchase. I'm like, thank you, Monarch. I did forget to turn off that subscription. But one of my favorite features about the app is that you can just scan a receipt and Monarch will automatically parse items and prices for you. Just share a link or QR code with your group and everyone can claim their items and settle their bill effortlessly. If we had that,
oh my God, so much easier to split bills for everything, like at Romantasy BookCon.
We're taking this into BookCon in New York.
Yes.
Achieve your financial goals for good with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes money management simple.
Use code BookTalk, BOOKTALK, at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarch.com, code BookTalk, BOOKTALK.
We are going to so many book conventions the next couple months, and do I need a whole new wardrobe?
I think so, because I'm not prepared for weather in New York.
Honestly, I am not about the fast fashion. I am all about Quince and how they prefer quality over quantity.
Quince makes high-quality wardrobe staples using premium fabrics, like 100% silk and organic cotton.
They even have a lightweight cotton cashmere sweater that's perfect for the changing seasons, especially in New York. And they have amazing spring colors, so I'll be able to be very versatile with all of the cute sweaters they have.
Quince clothing is consistently rated 4.5 to 5 stars by thousands of customers. Real people wearing these pieces every day actually love them. And honestly, they're better than some of my favorite expensive brands.
I personally love my boyfriend sweater that I got last year, and I still wear it all the time. And I'm sad that it's going to be warm, so I guess I'm going to have to find another sweater.
Stop waiting to build the wardrobe you actually want. You don't need a closet full of options. You just need pieces that work for you.
Right now, go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping and 365-day returns.
That's a full year to wear it and love it. And you will.
Quince is now available in Canada too. Don't keep settling for clothes that don't last.
Go to quince.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, for free shipping and 365-day returns.
Quince.com/booktalk. Part of what is hard, though, with like this Fae guy leaving her window is the reason why he's leaving. Quote, as he remembered who her sister was, who her sister's mate was, who her sister's friends were, as if any of that meant something. Nesta continues to lose her identity. She loses her identity as a human. She loses her identity as Nesta Archeron, and she loses her identity as someone who has a whole new group of people around her that she doesn't necessarily like. And their existence defines her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a quote later on in this episode that really begs the question, has Nesta ever had her own identity?
Mm-hmm. No. Answer that. Oh, I mean, no. All right, continue.
Now, I'm going to switch over to the psychoanalytical lens. Now, what this is in literature is it interprets the text by applying theories of the unconscious mind, focusing on characters' hidden desires, fears, repressed memories, and motivations. So if you've studied Freud, you can apply anything Freud said to your characters or any other. I didn't study psychology, so I can't.
You were
tell
like,
you.
that person's got mommy issues, right? Like, there you go.
Exactly.
Anything that you would take to a therapist.
Yeah, basically. You get to be a pretend therapist.
Yeah.
Which we have done in every season. So we're just now putting a name to it.
Yep.
Now, the psychoanalytical lens is important for analyzing trauma and guilt in literature, and boy, is there trauma and guilt in Silver Flames. So let's start with the fact that Nesta punishes herself. Quote, some days when she'd climbed into the icy water of her bath, not feeling its bite, but that of the cauldron's dark depths as it devoured her whole, as it ripped away her humanity, her mortality, and made her into this. This was hinted at in Wings and Ruin, but what we learn for sure now is the fact that Nesta can't take baths without remembering her trauma of being in the cauldron and fighting for her life. What message this sends to us as readers is that Nesta devalues herself. And if you don't believe me, we're going to continue to see instances of this where Nesta truly doesn't think very highly of herself. For example, when she remembers Papa Archeron and his sacrifice at the hands of the king of Hybern, Nesta thinks of him as, or his sacrifice as a waste. And that is because she herself is a waste. Her father is, quote, the man who had never fought for his children, not until the end. When he had come to save them, his daughters, her, a grand, stupid waste. This is followed up with, quote, every damning thing Rhysand thought about Nesta was true, and she'd known it long before he had ever shadowed her doorstep. This is so illuminating from the lens of character motivations. Nesta and Rhysand hate each other in most of their interactions, and this tells us that is because Nesta knows he knows her truth, that she, in her words, is a waste. She's a terrible person.
I love the Nesta Rhys dynamic in this book because people walked away. I think part of the reason why people have issues with this book is because of how poor of a light it shines on Rhys. And they're like, he completely changed. Like, he's such an asshole. Like, this isn't right. I think Nesta sees Rhys in a way that, of course, Feyre doesn't see Rhys. Mm-hmm. He kind of sucks. You know, don't you want a morally gray guy? Like, there you go. He's morally gray. But going on this whole, like, everything that Rhys thought about her was true and she'd known it. Like, that's such a clue that if she hates someone, then it probably reflects something about her. She hates her father. That's because her and her father are the same person. The reason why she hates her dad is the reason why she hates herself. He never stepped up. They're mirrors to one another. Basically, Nesta and her father share the same story of someone who came up short and is too little too late. Mm-hmm. When her dad shows up, yes, he shows up with an army and it's in time to help with the army. But on the emotional side of things with his daughters, for Nesta at least, it was too little too late.
And he dies.
And he dies. No.
He doesn't get to reap the rewards of his actions.
Yeah. And like for Feyre, it wasn't too little too late. It was wow, he really showed up at the end. For Nesta, it's like, well, and I still fucking hate you. And that is her story, right? Like, this entire story is going to be about her falling up too short. And I think what is really incredible about this book is that it is a story of someone who barely comes in time with the too little too late move. Which is unfortunate because I think, like, she had, compared to everyone else who gets all these years and she just gets like a few months, it kind of sucks. But I do really want to emphasize, like, the reason why, if she hates someone and if she has a lot of issues with them, it's because they see the real her. A major sticking point that I'm going to have with this story, and this is a good thing. So when I say it's like a sticking point, I mean, like, I'm not mad about it. I mean, you're going to hear me bitch, but like,
you're going to keep coming back to it.
Yeah, it's spicy. I like it. It's like, if this book had nothing, we wouldn't be talking about it. And if there's like a reoccurring theme that I'm going to have feelings about, like, oh, I love it, we wouldn't have been doing this book. But it's basically how Nesta's sexuality is treated. So coming back to that, there's a lot of contrast between what Nesta does and what others think is acceptable. So Nesta, like we were saying a little bit earlier, she does not get to have a sexuality. She does not get to use sex as an escape. She is going to be shamed with it. But like I was saying earlier, I think Nesta is the one who's in control of her sexuality. Has she made reckless choices? Yeah, probably. Can't say no. But out of all of her sisters, out of maybe not Amren, but like, I think she's one of the most sexually free female characters here. And also, I want to talk about the first time she has sex. So this is Nesta thinking about the first time she had sex. Quote, he had no idea that her maidenhead had still been intact until he'd spied the smeared blood on the sheets. His face had tightened with distaste, then a glimmer of fear as she might report an unsatisfactory first bedding to her sister's insufferable mate. It's supposed to be the first time that she's having sex, so therefore, like, you know, blood comes out of vagina, and then there's like this reaction of like, oh my god, like blood, I can't see it, the distaste. But really, it's the idea of ownership over her. It's not about Feyre. It's about Rhys even owning the first time she has sex. I mean, that's kind of horrible, right? Like, you know, like, give our girl a beat here. Let that sink in, that even Nesta's first time was overshadowed by Rhys owning it. Because if Nesta's upset, then, oh no, Rhys is going to do something about it. I also think it's refreshing that we get all of this happening off screen. I'm happy that we didn't get this side of her, the one who's like trying to figure it out. I'm happy that we get a Nesta who's like really come into her own. As much as of a hot mess express she has also really come into her own.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, and I can hear some people arguing in my brain about this moment. I love your perspective on this. I could hear people potentially responding, well, that's just her perception. It's just in her mind that Rhys owns this moment, right? She doesn't know for certain that guy, that the Fae who is betting her is actually thinking of Rhys.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. She has interpreted Rhys's actions as putting her in a box that she cannot get out of.
Rhys's existence and being mated to her sister has now put her in a box. Like, she never stood a chance. The second that Feyre and Rhys got together and Nesta was moving over to this world, like, her identity is forever gone.
Mm-hmm.
And is forever not going to be the most important person in the kingdom, right? Like, it's Rhys, Feyre, their kid.
Yeah.
Many things.
Now, just from this moment that Jack described and from many moments that we're going to see, it's pretty clear now, early on, Nesta doesn't feel like she has a lot of control of herself, her thoughts, what's happened to her throughout her life, where she is right now, her identity. So she needs something to control. And that is her door with 4 locks. Quote, locking them each night was practically a ritual. Even when the nameless male had been here, even out of her mind on wine, she'd remembered to lock them all, as if that would keep the monsters of this world at bay. Obviously, a locked door is not going to keep the trauma away from Nesta. It's not going to change anything that's happened to her. But it is the only thing that she can physically touch for which she feels some control. Which sadly means there is no control, right?
Yeah.
And that is also reflected in the consequences of her actions. And the fact, more than that she cannot think about the consequences of her actions. Quote, she hadn't been able to save the 1,000 Illyrians who had fallen in the moment after she'd summoned Cassian to safety during the final battle in Wings and Ruin. She'd turned away from that memory too.
So I want to go back to the whole described as a ritual aspect and the fact that, when you say ritual, I think religious, which then made me go, all right, let's bust out the religious lens then, shall we? Which essentially treats belief systems as forces that shape meaning and control. So, like, her trauma and control creates a religion itself, and it shapes meaning and control of her life. So, if the trauma is control and her ritual is control, she is giving praise to her own religion of trauma. There's a circular thought there. Did that do nothing? I keep looking for you to say, yay, good job.
Sorry. No,
okay.
No, I didn't know if you were done. No, I love it. I love that it's almost like the act of locking the door is like her version of praying.
Yeah.
Like, it's a ritual to manifest safety in a religion she's created for herself, which doesn't work.
Because what is religion if not something that's like a force that shapes meaning and control in your life? So if you can give your own trauma meaning, then, but of course, Mary, the altar is my hips. Except the altar is her 3-4 locks. And then going back to that 1,000 soldiers dying, this is how you can tell that we're real rusty, is that like, I keep not putting my notes in the same. It's just hard because you're like on a thought process. And then I'm like, where do I insert my notes? And then we have 12 more episodes or 11 more. I'll become used to it. But
we'll get there.
Yeah. Anyway, but to the 1,000 soldiers part, I think it's like another reminder of like, hey, our girl's been through it. I think that the first several chapters, which I do love these first several chapters, SJM highlights very clearly of she is traumatized. We are getting an FMC unlike anyone else I have given you so far. This is not Feyre. This is not any other characters that I will not list, but like, of her other series, because we promised we wouldn't say anything. But this is not a character that we are familiar with. And we need to remind ourselves that she has gone through it because we're about to hate her. Like, she's about to make every wrong move that you could possibly make.
To your point, Jack, let's also remember we ended with Frost and Starlight, the end of Feyre's story, on this absolute high after 3 novels and a novella of character development. We are now starting a new at rock bottom.
Yeah.
Right? When people think of Feyre, they don't think of Feyre in chapter 1 or 2 or 3 of ACOTAR, Thorns and Roses. They think of Feyre at the end of her story. We are starting at the beginning of Nesta's story. And like with all characters, SJM writes, those characters start at the bottom.
Well, I would even argue the equivalent would be if we started with Feyre, Mist and Fury. Like if that was our very first impression, because that Mist and Fury Feyre is way more close to Nesta.
Yeah, great point. So at this point, Cassian is back with Nesta's tea. And it's interesting. For someone she's avoided for months, Nesta sure knows him well and his reactions. Quote, something was eating at him. Usually, Cassian held out a bit longer before yielding to his temper. Perhaps it had to do with whatever Feyre wanted to say up at the house. It's foreshadowing what's about to happen, adding to that sense of dread. Nesta's spidey senses are tingling, but also just like using Cassian's name in the prologue, it's a clue of how much attention she has paid to him and retains about him.
Oh, Cassian, our precious baby boy. He's perfect, but not innocent. He's not innocent of shaming Nesta also. He says to her, quote, I'd hope you'd at least change the sheets between visitors, but apparently that doesn't bother you. Ouch. Like, okay, I know this comes from a place of hurt. Like, that's where this is stemming from, but calm down with the shaming here. And there's the emphasizing of her not being clean. And while, yes, on a literal sense, okay, yes, that's gross. Like, you're not changing your sheets between guys, would prefer that to not happen. However, there's that larger metaphorical idea of being clean here. And I think that it's more than just talking about the physical cleanliness. It's the metaphorical cleanliness, which is her soul and purity. He doesn't care that she's had sex, but, you know, he cares.
He cares that it's not with him.
Yeah, like, what's lovely about Cassian is I have full faith that, like, if she had slept with thousands of men before meeting her, he would give zero fucks. It's just more of like, but it could have been me.
You could have used me.
He's a precious baby boy.
We got to give him shit.
Is he going to be the one male character where I'm just like, no, we need to give him shit. But like, there's always like a male character that I go hard on, and it'll come to me.
Okay.
I can't suddenly start being nice to men. This will ruin my reputation.
Now, as Cassian and Nesta leave the apartment, we have a little moment of personification that I want to call out. Now, this is a literary device where human qualities, characteristics, emotions, or actions are attributed to non-human things, and whether that be animals, inanimate objects, or abstract ideas. Now, those 4 locks that Nesta used to control her safety now, quote, seemed to laugh at her. These are the same 4 locks Nesta is devoted to that Jack said is her part of her religion. They're the ones she counts on to keep monsters at bay. And yet now, as she's leaving, she's feeling mocked, probably because she feels very insecure at the moment. Because also, though, in some way, she knows that these locks are pointless. They cannot keep her from whatever is about to happen. They can't keep her safe from Rhysand. This way of keeping herself safe is actually pointless. That's what the personification achieves, if that's not clear. Now, earlier in the chapter, we saw how Cassian viewed Nesta's surroundings. This time, we get to see how Nesta views Feyre's surroundings, especially when it's in contrast to Nesta herself. Everything at the River Estate is, quote, so new and clean and beautiful that Nesta remembered her shoes were covered in stale wine precisely as she strode through the towering marble archway. Everything Feyre owns is new and perfect because Feyre has the perfect life. Meanwhile, Nesta's shoes reflect or symbolize her view of her own life, which is she is soiled. This is, again, another quote-unquote othering effect on Nesta. Though it's not what Feyre intends, Nesta hates herself and diminishes herself so much that she views her absence in Feyre's home as deliberate, as a intentional pointed message. Quote, every piece of art had been picked by Feyre herself or painted by her, many of them portraits and depictions of them, her friends, her new family. Nesta and their mother were nowhere in sight. That was how it had been. After all, Elaine and Feyre doted on by their father. Nesta prized and trained by their mother. Again, emphasizing Nesta does not belong anywhere in her own mind, and just starting to creep in this idea that her mother controlled her identity.
I love it. You did your talk, and now I'm going to give my TED talk. Because it was like some of these quotes are the same. And I'm like, we'll figure it out, guys. There's just a lot to talk about, okay? And there's no real seamless way to say it.
It's okay. You're doing a different lens.
Yeah, it's true. And so different that this isn't even the feminist lens. So y'all want more lenses. I'm like, we're like mad at it. It's like, you want more lenses? They're like, we didn't know there was more. Like, you want me to tell you something that we never told you before? So I'm going to be looking at the setting-focused criticism, which is often more formalized as the spatial/environmental, aka material literary lens. This lens examines how physical spaces, objects, architecture, and environments shape character behavior, power dynamics, emotional states, and narrative meaning. Instead of treating a setting as a backdrop, it reads the environment as an active force in the story. So I'm going to look at this particular quote. The Fey lights in each nest shape orb cast shimmering reflections on the polished pale wood floors, interrupted only by potted ferns, wood furniture also made in Valaris, and an outrageous array of art. So this whole entire house is perfect. It is without Nesta and their mother. This house is full of nature. It is not winter. It is alive. It is warm. It is welcoming. And this is a total symbol of power and wealth that Feyre has, something that Nesta was raised by her mom to believe that she should have had. And Nesta never says this should have been mine. And I don't believe Nesta believes that this should have been hers. I think that this is just another way of Nesta noting the environment, of noting ways that she herself has failed. Nesta reflects more on her mom, and, we get more top tier mommy trauma issues. Quote, that was all it had been after all. Elaine and Feyre doted on by their father, Nesta prized and trained by their mother. I love this trauma for so many reasons. The first one being that Nesta has to accept that being favorite is not a positive thing. I think sometimes as children of trauma, I've witnessed this from other people. It was just me and my mom. It's not like there was options, but my mom is great. But I think sometimes people think like just because they were the favorite means that they didn't get the trauma. And it's like they just got a different type of trauma. Just because that shitty parent ignored you and you got your trauma doesn't mean that that shitty parent wasn't a shitty parent to the person that
they favored.
Nesta was raised to be a weapon. She was meant to use her femininity as a weapon. And she has done none of it. She's done none of the things that her mom has wanted her to do. So Nesta enters the room, and as Amy noted the quote earlier, I shall read it again here, but everyone is noticing how Nesta dresses. Quote, hating that Rhys and Amren noted her filthy shoes, probably still smelled that male on her despite the bath. They're sex shaming her in her mind. However, is she wrong? There's a lot of judgment coming from them. I doubt that they're walking her into the room with open arms and understanding. But it's funny. Did you grow up, Amy, here with your parents at all, telling you like shoes tells you a lot about the man?
No.
I was raised like my grandma and my mom would tell me all the time, like if you want to see if a man is successful or not, look at his shoes. And, like if they're really run, look at the soles of his feet. That's what my grandma used to tell me all the time. My mom and I were talking about this again recently. And she was like, well, what kind of shoes? Like, what were the soles of his feet? I'm like, Mom, so many broke men spend so much money on really expensive sneakers. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't.
That's not how that works. But it is something about shoes is such an interesting, vulnerable thing to be judged on. Because I think that's one of those moments where we can all experience that moment in life of like, am I wearing the right shoes for this? Is this the right shoes? Is this make or break the outfit? But I really do believe smelling like another man is probably going to break the outfit. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
What's hard about everyone attacking Nesta and what I think people struggle with in this book is the way that they attack her. So Amren doesn't just go for her behavior, but for her looks as well. Quote, Though I bet it's hard to look good, Amryn went on, when you're out until the darkest hours of the night drinking yourself stupid and fucking anything that comes your way. So it turns out it was not in Nesta's mind. She is, in fact, being slut-shamed. And she's also having her image, her femininity, her looks being attacked. And I think it's okay that this book pisses me off. I think it's okay that I don't like the characters. And that's because I think that this brought a new realistic sense to the characters that we miss with Farah, because Farah is their little darling and she loves all of them. That this kind of brings a more realistic point of view. So I appreciate that.
I think this is something that people have to understand about life, right?
Yeah.
That your world experience in the past influences how you view everything else happening around you.
Yeah.
Farah was resilient. Farah is capable of seeing good in people. Nesta is bitter.
Yeah.
Nesta cannot see the good because she can't even see the good in herself. It is natural then that Nesta's interpretation of the world is completely different from Farah's, and thereby people are going to treat Nesta differently too.
Thank you for reframing it that way. Farah was the perfect victim for them to rally behind. Farah was the perfect innocent victim. There was no shaming. She did nothing wrong. Tamlin did her dirty. Her sisters did her dirty. Her father did her dirty. Amarantha did her dirty. Farah was a true innocent in all of this. And of course, everyone can rally behind her. She's so innocent to love and easy, and she's the perfect victim. Nesta is messy. Nesta is not the perfect victim. Nesta let her sisters starve to be spiteful, but she also starved. You know what I mean? So it is an interesting commentary that I think that the inner circle kind of sucks. But we said that before in past seasons too, I feel like.
Yeah, we did.
Good job, us.
Now, for as much as others, Cassian, even Rhys sometimes might seem to fear Nesta, depending on whose point of view you're in. While we're in Nesta's point of view, she comes across as having a lot of human weakness in her. Now, what do I mean? And this is a reference to past ACOTAR seasons, especially season 1, A Court of Thorns and Roses. Quote, Nesta had no idea what she'd ripped from the cauldron while it had stolen her humanity from her. The very thought had her stomach churning. Now, we've said in past ACOTAR seasons that this idea of nausea, of vomiting, those are human traits. That is a weakness that humans exhibit. And here, what we're seeing is the humanity that does exist in Nesta is bothered by the memories of the cauldron and what she had to do to survive the cauldron. At the same time, though, Nesta also has Fae weakness in her. And we see this when Rhysand commands Nesta to sit. Quote, Nesta froze, fighting it, hating that Fae part of her that bowed to such things. Now, if Nesta were still human, she would not have to succumb to Rhys's commands, right? Because he's the alpha male. But because she is now high Fae, her baser Fae instincts overrule whatever she wants.
Yeah.
She is now weak in the face of Rhys purely based on her quote-unquote genetics. I don't know. Did the cauldron change her genetics?
They changed her Faenetics. I can see how much you hate yourself for laughing at it that hard.
Either way, Nesta doesn't win. Whether it's her phonetics, her Faenetics, her genetics, her human or Fae weakness, both sides are weak. And the only thing she wants is to hide that from everybody else.
She's got some weak FNA. FNA?
DN Fae.
DN Fae. Grab a snack, stretch your legs, and listen to this while we plot our next move. Amy, we both have a new trainer and she wants me to up my walking. That's just another reason for me to bust out my Gabby sneakers by Vionic.
I wear my Uptown sneakers by Vionic every day so that I can get those 10,000 steps. And let me tell you, it's never been easier.
And more comfortable and more stylish. That's because of Vionic's exclusive BioMotion technology. It's really what sets them apart. They began by revolutionizing medical orthotics. Today, they continue to use that science to engineer shoes that leave you feeling energized and confident all day.
I've never been able to successfully stand at my desk all day, and I've done it multiple times very comfortably in my Vionic shoes.
There's definitely a clear difference when I walk out the door with my Vionic versus some other rando nasty shoes because I'm either walking on clouds or I'm not. Plus, Vionic has a bunch of other incredible designs like their Uptown sneakers that are one of my other favorites.
They even offer a 30-day guarantee so that you can wear them, love them, or if you're not like us, return them for a full refund within 30 days.
Use code BOOKTALK, BOOKTALK, at checkout for 15% off your entire order at VionicShoes.com. When you log into your account, it's a one-time use only.
Vionic shoes, wearable well-being for your feet.
Sleep is important to everyone, but I am bipolar, and sleep is one of the most important things that I can do to protect not just my mental health, but my physical health. I always strive to get around 8 hours of sleep a night. Honestly, I have to shoot from 8 to 10 hours a night. And it is so important for me to know that everything in my body is helping me get that balanced sleep that I really need.
For me, the big shift was realizing that sleep isn't just about hours. It's the foundation for everything: performance, mood, focus, recovery, even how you age.
The part that surprised me is that you can't fully understand your sleep without looking at your lab tests. If your sleep is off, your results will likely show it with elevated inflammation and shifts in glucose and cholesterol. And when sleep improves, that's going to show too.
That's what I appreciate about Function. It gives you real data so you know what's happening inside your body. Sleep isn't just a habit, it's biology. And if you want to look deeper to see whether you're improving it or troubleshooting how to improve it, you have to measure it.
I have my first appointment with Function to get my blood drawn for next week. What I did appreciate about it, though, is that they are making sure that it's coordinated around my period. They weren't just like, come here, give us blood. It was like, hey, let's make sure you get the best results possible.
Be like Jack and own your health. Start by understanding what's happening beneath the surface.
Function gives you access to 160 plus lab tests each year, including advanced markers for heart health, inflammation, stress, hormones, toxins, and more for $365 a year.
Learn more and join Function using our link. Visit www.functionhealth.com/booktalk or use gift code BOOKTALK25, that's BOOKTALK 25, for a $25 credit toward your membership.
As we wrap up the first chapter, because that was just chapter 1, Amy and I knew chapter 1 was going to be long. You guys didn't. But as we wrap up chapter 1, Nesta and Farah are having this one-on-one time, and Farah tells Nesta, I should have been there to help you, but I wasn't, and I'm ready to admit that this is partially my fault. I personally think all faults are to blame. I'm like, yeah, I think it's like everyone's fault. But what I love about this book, and I will repeat this again throughout this episode and then next episode too, because I started taking notes early on accident. Everyone's issues are drawn out immediately. There is no question on who's at fault. Nesta's at fault here, but yeah, Farah is a little bit at fault. She shouldn't have let her sister go be left alone and just assume someone who's depressed saying, leave me alone, should be listened to. Like, there is a lot of fault, and I am enjoying this episode and these chapters because it's just all being laid out up front. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Take a sip.
Take a sip.
We're now in chapter 2, and we return to Cassian's point of view, and nothing about how he views Nesta has changed. Quote, Cassian felt as if he loosed an arrow at a sleeping fire drake. Nesta, bundled in that worn blue coat with her stained shoes and her wrinkled gray dress, looked him over and demanded, what? Her image is the exact opposite of a fire drake, but he fears her as if she is one, and I love that irony. Symbolically, though, it's so interesting because the state of Nesta's attire is reflective of her mental state right now. She is suffering. She is at a very low point, but despite that, she's always ready for a fight, and Cassian knows it. And that speaks to who she is, right? And we're going to get more of that from Nesta's point of view later. Another thing that we learn about Cassian's point of view is that he interprets others' intentions much differently than Nesta. As I've said before, their viewpoints on life are different. Now, on one hand, he has known the members of the inner circle longer, but he also probably believes in them and trusts them more than Nesta does. So the question becomes, do we believe Cassian? As he watches the argument unfold before him, he thinks, quote, did Nesta understand that this meeting wasn't to condemn her, but instead came from a place of concern? Her simmering stare told him she considered this purely an attack. Either way, may this be a clue that somebody's perspective is skewed, who knows whose.
It's just so hard because, like, Cassian wants the best. Like, no one likes his girlfriend and he knows it. And, like, he's just there with his girlfriend's sister, just trying to make sure you guys just be nice to her, okay? She's different when you get to know her. But, like, even the way that Cassian interprets Amren is different. And Amren is giving Nesta orders in this moment. Quote, your clothes are already being sent to the house, though I doubt they will be suitable for training at Windhaven. A pointed glance at Nesta's gray dress, baggier on her than it had once been. Did Nesta notice the faint glimmer of worry in Amren's smoky eyes? Understand how rare it was? It's an insult. Like, did Cassian see the insult? Like, I understand, like, there's concern there, but there's anger. And I don't think Cassian is recognizing the anger. Amren is hurt by Nesta too. And there is something somewhere in the middle. Like, I think Cassian is too busy trying to look at the best of everyone. Like, they're just so worried about her. They just want what's best for her. And then, with Nesta, it's like, she's just an angry little fire drake. She's okay, guys. But it's somewhere in the middle. Like, we just kind of have to understand that we're not going to be able to fully trust Cassian or Nesta in this book.
Yeah, exactly. And that's life, right?
It's life for you, baby.
If there's an objective truth, none of us know what it is because we all have our own subjective truths.
Except for us. We're perfect.
We do get confirmation of how Cassian views Nesta's current state when he recounts the breakfast earlier that morning in which everyone learned about Nesta's night out. Because the damage that she causes to herself and to others, he views through the lens of his war experience. And it's that war experience that allows him to endure the damage that Nesta is causing. So specifically, when Feyre starts to cry at breakfast after getting the bill for Nesta's escapades, quote, it had required all of Cassian's training, every horror he'd endured on and off the battlefield to keep that same crushing sorrow from his own face.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you were saying, Jack. Cassian will wipe away all the negative to only see the good or the good intention in someone. We just saw it with Amren. That was a moment Cassian could not deny the pain or the wrongness of the situation. And that's what causes him sorrow.
What causes me sorrow is the timing of everything. I just want to point out that in this Cassian's point of view, quote, Cassian had been eating an early breakfast with them this morning when Rhys had gotten the bill from Nesta's night out. He was at Nesta's door at 7 a.m. And I love that I start this episode saying what time is too early, because even though I do think I will have definitely been up by 7, I don't want to be eating breakfast with other people at 6:15 in the morning.
Yeah, it's true. I'll eat by myself.
I'll eat by myself gladly, but like with company, no.
No. Now, this intervention is mostly an ultimatum, and Nesta is threatened with being ostracized and othered, more so than she already is, by the way, to the point that it might even risk her safety if she doesn't get her act together, which I have a problem with. After Amren says they're not putting her in quote-unquote prison, they're just sending her to the House of Wind. After Amren insists that the House of Wind is not a quote-unquote prison, she says, well, if you don't like it, you can go back to the human lands. And threatens that, quote, wherever Nesta was able to find a place to live in the human lands, she would be essentially housebound, confined to the grounds of her home for fear of human prejudices. Now, I'm looking at this through the Marxist lens. Humans are weaker than Fae. However, their fear of Fae overcomes all. And human fear of Fae is what puts Nesta at risk. Prejudice is a stronger motivator than anything else. And Amren weaponizes that against Nesta.
Yeah.
Let me weaponize people who will want to kill you to force you to do something that we deem acceptable.
Yeah.
If you're going to manipulate someone, this is the right way to do it, because living amongst humans where she would be hated and outcast, that is truly Nesta's ultimate prison.
Yeah.
Because she already is not understood by the other High Fae in the room. It would be impossible for humans to understand her.
Yeah. Humans were barely understanding her when she was human.
Right. She is just always on the outside.
What's also really sad about this is the fact that humanity is something for Nesta to mourn. Like, she will have said several times, like, I didn't choose coming here. I was brought here. And even though she wasn't at peace with the human lands, it's still something for her to mourn. And now her mourning is also her punishment.
Mm-hmm.
It's cruel. It is a very cruel way of punishing her. It is very efficient and it's smart. And I'm not saying that I would have anything better. Like, that's the funny thing is, if anyone hears me saying that it's cruel, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that they should have done better. I actually think, like, for what they're trying to achieve, it's absolutely spot on. Fantastic. But if you want to better understand people's reactions to this book and maybe why some people have such visceral, like, I don't like this, this makes me feel icky. This is one of those moments where I could understand if someone felt icky and you didn't quite know what it was. This is one of those moments.
Yeah.
I would also like to point out her new schedule. That is, move to the House of Wind, train with Cassian in the mornings, and then work in the library in the afternoons. Now, we do know she trains for 2 hours up until lunch. So you're telling me that she gets up, gets dressed at 9 a.m. Stop reading my notes. We need to, like, shield your eyes. She gets up at 9 a.m. I'm guessing 9 a.m. because all she needs is an hour to get dressed, to eat, have a personal trainer, a hot personal trainer from 10 to 12.
Who takes off his shirt.
Takes off his shirt that she can eventually starts fucking. An hour lunch probably. And then most likely works from the library for another 4 hours and gets to hang out with books. And then has 5 to 11 every night to do whatever the fuck she wants in a house that does whatever she wants. I would love a personal trainer for 1 hour.
Yeah.
I would love a personal trainer for 2 hours. I don't even need them to look hot and be shirtless. I don't need to have sex with them. I just want a personal trainer for 2 hours. Amy and I are fit girls now, and this sounds really nice.
Oh, yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Now, there is a moment of movement in this argument that's taking place that caught my eye that I wanted to point out. As Feyre works up the nerve to tell Nesta how things are going to be moving forward, she, quote, toyed with her silver and star sapphire wedding ring. Now, this is the engagement ring from Rhys, and by fiddling with it, by touching it, Feyre, she doesn't want to do this, right? This is all Rhys's idea that she accepts. Feyre's calling on Rhys's strength, right? She's calling on Rhys for strength to stay the course on this ultimatum because Rhys has been dying for this moment, and we all know it. What I find sad, though, throughout this conversation is that, again, this confirmation that Nesta thinks she's a waste of space. She doesn't realize or understand that everybody has been paying close attention to her and knows what she's been doing these months. So what does that say? She assumes they're not paying attention. Is it because she's not worthy of attention? Or does she believe everybody else in the inner circle is too self-involved to notice her?
It could be an insult either way.
Yeah, it's an insult either way. It's just also very sad.
Yeah. I'm fascinated with the version of Feyre that we're seeing right now because I feel like we're seeing someone who's different than the Feyre we got used to in ACOTAR, ACOMOF, ACOWAR, ACOSF, and
ACOFES.
Right now we're in ACOSF. And that is the fact that she's messing up. Quote, everyone, had multiple conversations about this. About you. I decided that giving you time and space would be best. You don't tell someone that, babe. You don't be like, we all talked about you and we all decided, I decided. What I love about this is that we knew a Feyre who was taking care of her siblings, her sisters, who then became High Lady, like stopped a war, stopped several wars. Like, she had to grow up very quickly and then she got married and, all of this happened. And right now we are seeing a early 20-something-year-old trying to tell her big sister what to do. And that is the insecure young lady that we see here. And it feels very spot on.
It sure does. And I'm glad you bring that up because that reminded me I wanted to rant about the fact that Rhys is over 500 years old and Nesta's maybe 25.
I know.
He doesn't get to be fucking mad at her.
No.
Anyway, I love that you point that out.
On that rant, I have it for Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks, but I'll say it now. We need to find it. But all of this was part of Rhys's plan. Because in the end of Frost and Starlight, he sets in motions and he says something about setting in motions to get Nesta and Cassian together and to get them healing. I think part of this is Rhys playing up his outrage.
Good point.
Because we know that, like, he planned this. Like, from Cassian taking care of the war to suggesting Nesta goes and does the training. Like, he sees his horny, sad best friend. He wants to help his horny, sad best friend.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yes, he is outraged and 100% protective over Farrah, especially with the baby and seeing how heartbroken she is. Yes. And he needs to be more in control because he really does hate Nesta. But I think part of it is he's trying to help the story along.
Yeah, that's fair. He's like, these two fuckers can't figure it out themselves. So I'm going to step in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to shift back to the psychoanalytical lens because we've got more trauma analysis to do. Now, SJM lets us know very early on that Nesta doesn't want to be subjected to her fear. This is one of the most important reasons why Nesta drives people away, because if she doesn't care about them, she can't feel her fear. Nesta thinks, quote, she couldn't bear it. The bone-deep horror that lingered, the flashes of that discarded cloak or the cauldron's chill waters or Cassian crawling toward her or her father's snapping neck. It's also possible, I recognize from everything that we've discussed about Nesta so far, that she doesn't think people care about her as much as she cares about them. So she's only doing to them what she feels they're already doing to her, which is care less. And in Nesta's mind, everybody got to make it back from the war except Nesta. Quote, where she could see precisely how happy they were, none of them seemed remotely as decimated as she'd been by the war. She'd come so close to being part of it, of that circle, had held their hands as they'd stood together on that morning of the final battle and believed they might all make it. But it's that naive hope that sets her up for failure. Quote, then she'd learned precisely how mercilessly it might be ripped away, what the cost of hope and joy and love truly was. She never wanted to face it again. It's a sad, sad place to be. I love that we get it so early on because otherwise it's so easy to be frustrated by Nesta's interactions with Cassian. And so we need to know this early on to be empathetic to Nesta. What she believes about this and distancing herself, it is exacerbated by the fact that she believes she's not good enough and therefore punishes herself. Quote, her power hadn't been enough to save them that day. She supposed she'd been punishing it for failing her ever since, keeping it locked up tight inside her. And like Jack said earlier, she's punishing herself because just like her father, she failed to follow through.
I will continue to make this case, especially again for Cassian later. And that is the fact that this book isn't about us learning something new with these characters. It's not even about the characters discovering something new about themselves. They know why they suck. Like they know that they have issues. Cassian's like, she hurt my feelings. I don't want to do this again. Nesta's like, my father is a horrible person. I'm just like him. And I feel like no one likes me. They all know like what their issues are. So it really turns this book into a different type of book because you're not meeting characters and discovering their past issues. You are entering a new story with new lead characters after having 4 books of content with them. And that's going to make for a heavy and difficult story to execute because you're starting midway through. Normally the journey is part of the discovery process of this is why I have daddy issues. We're so past that. So I just want to really appreciate that because you have these character arcs, but then you also have this like intense, more political aspect of the book that doesn't really have a lot of movement going on. And people think that not much is happening with this book when I think it's just more precise in a way, actually.
Yeah, I think that it gets to do the really difficult character development work that plot-driven books don't get to do. And that's because we already know these characters. We're not being introduced to them. We're just learning how they see the world.
Yeah. And they're not 19. Like Nesta's 25. Her frontal lobe is somewhere in the ether developed in theory.
In theory. Now, as I've alluded to before, in contrast to the locks on her door, Nesta views her life as one without control. Quote, everything in her life from the moment she was born had been controlled by other people. Things happened to her. Anytime she tried to exert control, she'd been thwarted at every turn. To know this, Nesta's point of view, as this ultimatum is happening, is horrendous because we are watching her being robbed of choice in this moment. Just like we saw the cauldron rob her of her humanity before the book even started. Quote, one of the few choices she'd made for herself, which is the apartment she's in, stripped away. Feyre didn't seem to care. Once again, this is forcing Nesta to feel abandoned. She was abandoned by her mother because her mother died and controlled her. She was abandoned by their father. She was abandoned by Feyre. She's being abandoned all over again by the inner circle. Quote, Nesta didn't want to talk about it, about the fact that it had always been her and Elaine, and somehow now it had become Feyre and Elaine instead. Elaine had chosen Feyre and these people and left her behind. Amren had done the same.
It's control, man. Getting control of her life, trying to get that control back. Being reckless for hers, like we talked about, is a form of control. But all of this, like, I don't know, this realization that she has who's controlling her and the choices of moving away, I think because there's such a link between religion and trauma and control that when people move away from her, when they make this choice to step away from her, it's almost a divine religious experience when someone leaves her like that.
Speaking to religion, I took this quote out, and now I'm sad I did. At one point early on in the ultimatum, Feyre says, "You're going to the House of Wind," Feyre said, nodding eastward. And this is my religious upbringing. When Adam and Eve were forced out of the Garden of Eden, they were forced eastward.
Oh.
So I was just like, oh, Nesta's being kicked out of her.
Is that a Bible thing or is that a Mormon thing?
It's probably a Mormon thing.
I'll check it later. I don't want to spend time now because we have to keep going, but I'm just curious because sometimes Mormons have a different flavor on stuff and it's just kind of entertaining.
It's true. Take a sip.
Take a sip.
One last thing before we go into chapter 3, just a sign of trauma I want to point out because it's key for later. Quote, she was glad of the roaring in her head when the sound of wood cracking as it burned was so much like her father's neck breaking that she couldn't stand to light a fire in her own home.
We're in chapter 3, and Cassian follows Rhys into his office, and we have some breadcrumbs there that we'll talk about in the Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks section. But for right now, quote, as, of course, had been fascinated, talking about Rhys's office, Rhys had built the model himself centuries ago. It could not only track the sun, but also tell time, and it somehow allowed Rhys to ponder the existence of life beyond their own world and other things Cassian had, again, instantly forgotten. Cassian hides behind the idea and image of knowledge and power. Like he hides behind the idea that he has no knowledge. Therefore, he has no power. He's trying to avoid power and he actively is avoiding knowledge. He plays into this idea of being the Lord of Bastards and this idiot brute. He even eventually reflects, quote, a few glass cabinets full of delicate objects that Cassian stayed away from for fear of breaking them with his, quote, bear paws, as Moore had described his hands. And I think there's something about not being able to grow from stereotypes that are placed on us and finding comfort to be able to grow. I think we all accidentally get stereotypes placed on us. That just kind of happens. We fall into our own cliche and we have to be able to be with the right people to grow out of that.
And what I like about this is that even though Cassian and Nesta are in different spaces, they have this in common, that they hide in the box that has been created for them.
Yeah.
Now, unlike Nesta's trauma, which keeps her separate from her family, there seems to be a special bond that is shared between Cassian and Feyre, and that's because of their common trauma. At some point, Cassian meets Feyre at her studio and sees her painting a self-portrait of when she was starving. During that point, Cassian thinks, quote, he had never been as thin as Feyre during his own years of poverty, but he understood the hunger in each brush stroke, the desperation, the hollow, empty feeling that felt like those grays and blues and pale, sickly white, the despair of the black pit behind that torso and arms, death hovering close like a crow awaiting carrion. Now, from a psychoanalytical lens, Cassian and Nesta, though they have similarities, they're equally the same and equally different, if that makes sense. Nesta's trauma response is to pull away, while Cassian's trauma response is to seek others and to connect with them.
Yeah.
What matters to me is that Cassian sees trauma and understands trauma.
Also, seeing this trauma is hard for Cassian on another level, too, because he is also very aware that Nesta did nothing to help Feyre starve. Quote, he thought about that painting a great deal in the days afterwards, how it had made him feel, how close they'd all come to losing their high lady before they even met her. Cassian is very attuned to his feelings and understands his own emotions, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was struggling with that aspect too of like, I am so worried and upset for Farah, and the woman that I love helped put her there. At the very least, did nothing to help get her out. But Cassian knows he wants more in life and in everything, quote, because as he's staring at Rhys, he thinks, quote, but sometimes Cassian saw that mating ring in the portrait behind the desk in this house and just wanted. I feel you, Cassian. My baby boy is very romantic, but this is also set up to what's at stake when he starts hooking up with Nesta. He wants more. This is his emotional journey. Again, what's going to be at stake when there's nothing really at stake plot-wise? What's at stake when you have characters that have so much history with each other? This right here. He wants more. He wants something serious.
And he's willing to take what he can get because he doesn't think highly of himself.
Yep, it's all sad.
It is.
It's so good. We get this wonderful moment of reflection from Cassian and just the general growth of him and his besties. Quote, he and his brothers had put a good deal of distance between the stupid youths they'd been, fucking any female who showed interest, often in the same room as each other, and the males they were now. He wanted it to keep it that way. I don't think you should keep it that way. I think we should revisit this for the next chapter. My note, to be one of those women. But I do want to look into it. Sex is only acceptable when it's not as a form of coping. It's only acceptable when you're young and stupid and male.
Well, here's the thing. He doesn't view it as coping because he's male, but it is coping.
Yeah.
Like, they had a bunch of trauma. He had a bunch of trauma. They went through a lot of trauma together. Why else would they be fucking in the same room as each other? They can't be apart.
Show art, like... Show the photos. Yeah, I mean, it's true, though. He's going to talk later about what he did when he found out about his mom's death. I mean, just the amount of the shit that him, Rhys, and Az had to all go through to be treated seriously. Like, there was many, many years of trauma. You're right, Amy. This was them coping. Thank you.
Yeah, it's, again, just not viewed as coping because, well, that's just what boys do.
It's what boys do.
Now, Cassian does work really hard to not appear holier than thou after Rhys has asked him to be courtier. And part of that is because Cassian doesn't really believe in himself all that much and views himself as a lowly grunt. More comments, quote, Cassian the courtier, I never thought I'd see the day. Feyre snickered, but Nesta's eyes slid to him, surprised and wary. He said to her, if only to beat her to it, still a bastard-born nobody, don't worry. Now, part of this is a defense mechanism. He is self-deprecating so that he can't be harmed by Nesta first, right?
Yeah, he's wearing his titles out loud, like aggressively loud, the insulting one so loudly that he gets to protect himself.
He wears it like armor. But at the same time, whether he intends to or not, Nestian, that's their
power couple name.
Cassian keeps himself at Nesta's level by reminding her that he's nobody, that he is other as well, right? Like, don't worry, Nesta, I'm not getting on my high horse. You and I can be in the mud together. It does humor me, though, that these two view themselves as low as dirt, but view each other as more than that. And I don't doubt that this will be a recurring theme.
Yeah, yep.
Plot twist, it's an ad break, but we promise it is still canon. I'm preparing to get married, which means I'm thinking a lot about what it means to merge finances. And I think I'm going with Chime.
Chime isn't just another banking app. They unlock smarter banking for everyday people with products like MyPay, giving you access to up to $500 of your paycheck anytime and getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Some of these old banks still don't do this.
We're at Romantasy BookCon, and I don't get paid for another 2 days. I could really use Chime right now.
I don't get paid for another 2 days, too. I'm really sad. It's not stopping me from buying everything, but it is also making me want to switch to Chime.
Because they don't have overdraft fees, minimum balance fees, or monthly fees.
You can also earn up to 3% APY on savings. That's 7 times higher than a traditional bank.
It's also rated 5 stars by USA Today for customer service because they have real humans 24/7.
And with the Chime card, it's the new way to build credit history with your own money and get rewarded every single day.
There's no annual fees, no interest, and no strings attached. Who can resist that?
Chime is not just smarter banking, it's the most rewarding way to bank. Join the millions who are already banking fee-free today.
It just takes a few minutes to sign up. Head to chime.com/booktalk. That's chime.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK.
Chime is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services, a secured Chime Visa credit card, and MyPay line of credit provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. MyPay eligibility requirements apply, and credit limit ranges $20 to $500. Optional services and products may have fees or charges. See chime.com/fees info. Advertised annual percentage yield with Chime Plus status only. Otherwise, 1.00% APY applies. No min balance required. Chime card on-time payment history may have a positive impact on your credit score. Results may vary. See chime.com for details and applicable terms.
Struggling to find the right metabolic wellness support, even when you're doing everything right, has been one of the most frustrating things for me in my health journey.
I've tried other metabolic wellness support providers, and I often feel rejected rather than supported by the process.
That's because Brello is focused on long-term health, longevity, and performance, not quick fixes.
Brello is designed for people who want a more sustainable approach to their metabolic wellness support. Their support helps you focus on habits, education, and structure alongside provider oversight.
Getting my GLP-1 through Brello has been so easy. They make it so effortless, and they provide all the support I need through their app.
Their app is one of a kind in my book because it allows you to track progress, manage reminders, and stay on top of renewals. And if you're like me, managing the renewals is the hardest part.
Everything is managed online, making it easier to stay consistent over time, and medications are delivered to your door. They're so transparent with their pricing, with one flat monthly cost. Go to BrelloHealth.com to see if you qualify and explore their GLP-1 plans, starting at $133 per month for your first 3 months, plus access to their app, community, and wellness classes. That's BRELLO health.com.
Any information provided is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. It is not a substitute for professional medical consultation, diagnosis, or treatment. All patients must consult with a healthcare provider prior to the prescription or dispensing of any medication, which will be done only pursuant to a valid prescription. Compounded drug products are not FDA approved, and the FDA does not evaluate their safety, effectiveness, or quality. Patients are encouraged to discuss the risks, benefits, and appropriateness of any medications, including compounded products, with their healthcare provider before use.
Now, even though it is physically necessary to get to the House of Wind, Nesta does not want to get close to anybody. Again, this shows how much she wants to cut ties with everyone and perpetuate her otherness. Quote, but being in Cassian's arms, she'd rather have risked breaking every bone in her body from the plunge to the veranda. There's a different moment. Quote, Nesta dug her hands into her pockets, wishing she'd opted for the warm gloves Feyre had coaxed her to take. She'd refused. Nesta is a stubborn bitch. She's probably a Taurus. She does not want help because to accept help is to allow people to care about her, which means she has to care about them, which means she's going to get hurt.
Meanwhile, all the Tauruses out there, fuck you, Amy.
I'm a Taurus.
I know, but they don't know that. They don't know that. They just think that you're picking on them.
Later, we are reminded that Nesta had, quote, started to see a future, until she'd been hunted down by the King of Hybern and the Cauldron, until she'd realized that everyone she cared for would be used to hurt her, break her, trap her. And Nesta doesn't like to be trapped. She's got to be the predator.
New lens alert. I'm just gonna lens the shit out of this season. I want to look at how the use of nature is reflected in the moment. So this is the nature / eco-critical literary lens. Often shorthanded as eco-criticism, but it's applied at the level of imagery and description, not climate politics. So, quote, Nesta dug her hands into her pockets, wishing she'd opted for the warmer gloves Feyre had coaxed her to take. She'd refused. And then a couple sentences later, talking about Cassian, he might have been standing in summer field for the reaction he yielded to the cold. So I like the combination because cold is a form of punishment for her, right? She has to withstand the cold because she herself is ice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for Cassian, it's to show that he's capable of handling her. So he is standing there outside in a summer field for all the reaction he had to the cold, aka all the reaction he had to her cold. So I just like the way that nature is used both as a way of showing punishment and as a way of showing closeness, fondness, lovingness to one another.
His openness to her.
That one. what I think is so strong in these early chapters is setting up the contradiction that we're going to just see with Nesta and everyone here. Quote, she'd spent weeks here last year, during that terrible period after being turned fae, begging Elaine to demonstrate any sign of wanting to live. She'd barely slept for fear of Elaine walking off of this veranda, or leaning too far out one of the countless windows, or simply throwing herself down those 10,000 stairs. Okay, and this is why Nesta gets every right to be pissed the fuck off. Elaine was suicidal. She was so concerned about Elaine that Elaine might kill herself that Nesta couldn't even stay awake. And everyone got to fawn over Elaine. And right now, Nesta's, yes, she's gambling, drinking. I'm not saying that she's living a perfect, innocent life, but Nesta is viewed more harshly than either of her sisters will ever be viewed. And that is the same that was her childhood. That's the oldest daughter, right? Like you're viewed more harshly than your younger siblings. She turned into her mother's little soldier, viewed more harshly than either of her sisters. And once again, society is doing that to her. She is the oldest daughter.
And part of that is because in a lot of ways, Feyre and Elaine submit to femininity. And although Nesta is very feminine, her attitude is not feminine.
Yes.
And therefore, she gets the shit end of the stick.
Yep. She's giving Scorpio.
She is.
We're Scorpio risings, so that's fine. We can say it.
Nesta recalls that during the war, she saved Cassian. Let's not forget that. She thinks about it a lot. She's remorseful that she couldn't save the 1,000 Illyrian soldiers, but, quote, had instead been able to save only one, him. She would do it again if forced to, and knowing that, she couldn't bear that truth either. Oh, Nesta just cannot be true, speak her truth. She cannot acknowledge her truth because to do so would to hurt her. And I think that she retaliates against Cassian because she's mad at herself for how she feels about him. Because there's only so much punishment she can deal on herself.
Yeah.
Some of the punishment she owes herself has to go to Cassian. She, quote, knew that the fastest and deepest way to annoy Cassian, hurt him right now, would be to make him doubt the work he did and whether he deserved to be here. The instinct crept up a rising wave, each word selected to slice and wound. I love this setup. Again, I keep saying that because we learn so much about how Nesta thinks and operates, and it establishes tension. So we know every time she attacks Cassian in the future, because she's hot for Cassian.
Just attack him. Just attack him. It's fine.
Attack him with your mouth.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Nesta is going through the same issues that Feyre went through at first as well. Quote, it wasn't a home, this place, just as her apartment hadn't been a home. Neither had her father's fancy new house before Hybern had half destroyed it. And neither had the cottage or the glamorous manor before that. Home was a forgotten word. Feyre never felt at home either in any of the places that she lived. And the sisters have a lot of similarities that they just don't recognize with one another. And I hope they do. And I don't know if they do in this book as much. I hope they do in future books. I leave room for there to be more connection of like, oh, we're more similar than I thought. Because that's not what this book is about. This book is not about her connecting with Feyre.
Right. I do hope so, because you know what? If these two would just have a real conversation,
oh my God,
I think it would be very illuminating for both of them.
Yeah. Now, while thinking about having lived here before, this House of Wind, Nesta thinks, quote, she discovered those smutty books, as Cassian called them. She devoured a few dozen of them during those weeks she'd first been here, desperate for any lifeline to keep her from falling apart. So she used sex, love, as a form of comfort before this. But because the sex is not on the pages and actually includes her now, it's no longer comforting. Either way, smut heals. Read books.
Read sex.
Read sex. Out of the 10 books I've read in January, 5 of them did not have a single sex scene.
Wow. Who are you?
Someone who's stuck in Pride and Prejudice variations and needs to get the fuck out and not willing to spend money to read the ones that have sex in there. Yeah. Okay. Nesta's view on the world is very skewed. We knew this. This was not shocking information, but here's some more. Quote, knew Cassian's entire existence was paid for by Rhys, just as the High Lord bankrolled all of his inner circle. Nesta doesn't understand work. Nesta does not understand what it means to work or what it takes to work or what it's like to be a hardworking member of society. When she associates money with Rhys, it's going to be around her sister, and it's going to make her respect Rhys and anyone around Rhys less. Because if you think about it, Nesta, even though she doesn't understand hard work, she understands the power of money because she had money, she lost money. She got money again, and then she lost independence. Like, she understands what it's like to be dependent on someone. And Rhys is the one who's bankrolling their life, even though they're all working, but he is the one who's cashing the paychecks. And she knows what it's like to be dependent on someone. No, not a fan. Cassian starts their day at the threshold, right? And Nesta is about to end the day, even though it's 11 a.m. at the threshold. End her day. Quote, but she felt his stare on her, assessing every step over the threshold. It's a shift. It's a change. It's her stepping into the new chapter and us stepping into the next chapter as well. Chapter 4, but after we take a sip.
And while you take a sip, it's interesting that Nesta is forced out of her apartment, stepping through a threshold. And she says, oh, fuck y'all. I'm going over this threshold into this other bedroom where you can't get me. So like, even though there are changes with these thresholds.
Yeah.
Nesta's doing everything she can to resist that change.
Yep. All right. We're in the last chapter for today, and that is chapter 4. And Cassian goes to meet up with Moore. They're all rhymed. And the description of Moore is pretty damn good. I don't know. That's my note. The description of her is pretty good. What?
You were desperate to get this done.
I think I was. Quote, Cassian halted a few feet from the maze of tables along the walkway, smiling to himself at the sight of her, head tipped towards the sun, unbound hair gleaming and rippling around her like liquid gold, her full lips curled forward, basking in light.
Upward.
God, thank you. Her full lips curled upward, basking in the light. Forward would be bad. She is the absolute opposite of Nesta. Nesta is cold and ice. Moore is sun and warmth. Cassian will go on a few more times, talking about how perfect her face is. Each time pissed me off. I was like, I think you can stop talking about it. Okay, other than the fact that I do have an issue with the idea that Archeron isn't the only one guilty of this. But oftentimes in books, when you have the female character who's described as being perfect features, perfect skin, perfect hair, they are a white blonde woman. So just gonna, I see it, guys. I see it. Now, other things that I have issues other than my feelings being hurt on the part of Nesta is, why is Cassian noting how beautiful she is? Now, I know SJM is trying to drill it into the reader of being like, Moore is gorgeous. But like, I think it's also telling of Cassian, because does he place value in looks, or does he place value in what Moore represents in his mind? Moore is someone who has had to overcome the worst of things, and that's what he values and respects.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm so glad you say that, because that leads nicely into my quote, because what we're seeing through Cassian's eyes as he looks at Moore is actually a reflection of him and his character. I realized as I was analyzing this that maybe one of Cassian's strengths, maybe one of his weaknesses is what he sees inside a person. Whether or not that's discernment of the true person, he truly sees what makes a person worthy in general. And he sees that in Moore based on her interior, even though he seems to be obsessive about her exterior. Quote, Cassian had quelled any further desire for Moore, had let lust turn into affection and all romantic feelings turn into familial bonds. But he could still admire her sheer beauty as he'd admire any work of art, even though he knew well that what lay inside Moore was far more lovely and perfect than her exterior.
There's something about Moore that with Cassian, like, he just does not understand her or doesn't view her as accurately as he might. I don't think he views anyone very well. I think he views everyone with like the best of heart and intentions that they might have. But there's something even more skewed with Moore. Quote, but he could still admire her sheer beauty as he'd admired any work of art, even though he knew well that what lay inside was far more lovely and perfect than her exterior. Flagging the unreliable narrator again. Within these few paragraphs, really, a lot of things happen. One of which is that Moore insults Nesta very aggressively so. I don't read it here because I have too many quotes, and at this point there were so many pages of notes that I was like, just trust me, she insults Nesta. But also the fact that Moore manipulated Cassian to have sex with her in order to get kicked out of the Night Court. Now, she didn't care what happened to Cassian's relationship with Rhys or Azriel, and we're supposed to be drilled inside that she is a perfect person inside also, that she is just as innocent. Now, I don't think that us as a reader would be like, she's clearly not innocent, but Cassian only views people with the best of light and intentions. And that's just a reminder here.
Yep. Both Nesta and Cassian are very unreliable narrators. We do get a little fun food is power moment here for those of you who might be new. Food is a symbol or form of power in a lot of SJM's books. Here we see Moore drinking her tea and eating her sweets while she teaches / informs Cassian of the ways of playing courtier. What this symbolizes then is that Moore's teacher, one with knowledge, instructing Cassian, who's only drinking water. Quote, Moore nodded gravely. Lucian might mean well, but any reports would be skewed, even if he wasn't aware of it, in their favor. We need someone outside of their little bubble to collect information and report. She finished off her pastry. Which would be you?
Oh, Moore. We get a shift into Nesta's point of view, and it's more linking of the sisters, their trauma. We're reminded that Nesta and Farah had the same food insecurity trauma. Quote, jolting upright, hands clutching at her chest, she gasped for air. Had it been some fever dream on a winter's night? She was still in the cottage, still starving and poor and desperate. Yes, Farah did have it so much worse because she was the one who was out there doing something. Because, like, you know, if I'm sitting here being like, hey, you guys, Nesta was just as traumatized as Farah. And people might be like, yeah, Farah was fucking doing something. Her sisters were doing nothing. Yes. However, I want to really drill in the fact that Nesta is the type of person who will cut her nose to spite her face. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard that saying before, but it just means that someone is very much willing to hurt themselves in order to make some kind of point. And I feel like we've all known someone like that. And whether you haven't, then, you know, I'm happy for you. But it is interesting where it's like, there's been like, you know, family members that I have very much loved, but oh my God, they would choose the most spiteful things. Like they almost couldn't help themselves. And that's what I think is sad about it, is that Nesta was willing to let so many people hurt because she just could not help herself. It's not a good enough excuse. She absolutely can go fucking help herself, but it's just a different type of mentality and trauma.
Yeah.
Nesta was punishing her sisters by punishing her father, who was doing nothing to save that family. And it would then make sense that Nesta is using food as another form of punishment. She'd consumed absolutely nothing all day. Her stomach grumbled, but she ignored it. It's the same way that she used cold as a punishment, because cold was something that she made her sister suffer through. And now it's something that she uses as punishment.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. That just connected now. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm watching you in the corner. I'm like, is she nodding? Is she nodding?
I was.
Thank you. Nesta did not stand a chance, though, when it came to their mom. Thinking about her mom's words, quote, my Nesta, Elaine shall wed for love and beauty, but you, my cunning little queen, you shall wed for conquest. That's issues.
That's
issues.
Lots of issues.
Nesta's value was always going to be on who she'd married, on who she connect herself with. And that kind of also should give us more understanding of where Nesta was mindset ACOTAR. When we meet her in ACOTAR, she's a bitch, but she's also a bitch that was failing her mother. She was ready to marry Thomas. Mandrake. Yeah, but Thomas, whatever, son of something. He was like a farmer's son. He was a dick.
Yeah.
And she was willing to go, like, just in order to be able to stay fed. She was ready to go past her mother's wishes and what she'd wanted for her. And that's who we met in ACOTAR. And then we get more understanding even now. So that also means every time Nesta goes and has sex and drinks and is unladylike, she continues to fail her mother. She's rebelling against the image of who her mother wanted her to be.
On this idea of who she shall wed for conquest, she will wed because she's the most powerful one in the room. She will conquer.
Yeah.
She will wed to level up, to power up. And that's the furthest from anything she's ever done.
Yeah. And it's still like, if it was up to her mom, she would have been with Rhys. You know what I mean? If you wanted to level up, that's who you'd be with. We're not shaming Cassian here, but the whole point is that he's not a prince. He's a bastard, no name, nobody.
Yeah.
On top of all this, we're reminded that she has some sexual assault trauma. Quote, Nesta had tried to forget Thomas. She'd often found herself wishing the cauldron had ripped those memories away just as it had her humanity. But his face sometimes sullied her dreams, her waking thoughts. Sometimes she could still feel his rough hands pawing at her, bruising her. Sometimes the coppery tang of blood still coated her tongue. Nesta is a survivor of sexual assault. We, as readers, need to remember that.
Mm-hmm. Now, on a completely different note, SJM loves a wolf motif. I love a wolf motif, and we see it here again.
Yep.
They are consistent in her series. We saw it associated with Feyre. We now get to see it associated with Nesta. Nesta resents the friends she had before her family became destitute and attributes that fall from grace for who she is now. Quote, they had thrown them all, mere children and a crumbling man, to the wolves. So Nesta had become a wolf, armed herself with invisible teeth and claws, and learned to strike faster, deeper, more lethally, had relished it. But when the time came to put away the wolf, she'd found it had devoured her too. This goes to my earlier point. Who is Nesta? Does Nesta know who Nesta is? And I think the answer is no. She's used anger and her swift tongue and her pain as a defense mechanism, which has become her entire personality.
Yeah.
And so she is no one.
Mm-mm. No, I mean, I'm sure if we were to really think about it, there's also the fact that the whole book one started with Feyre killing a wolf. You know? And then we start this book with Nesta having been killed by the wolf because a wolf consumed her.
And Feyre shot down the wolf.
Yeah. There's a lot of nature imagery here, you know, with the wolf comparison. And here it's doing a moral and psychological work. It's showing how survival instincts, the fact that they were once necessary, can consume the self when the environment no longer demands them. The wolf can also represent the id, rage, instinct, aggression, unleashed to protect the ego. But I love this idea that she is devoured by this wolf, and then Feyre came and killed the wolf. So, I mean, actually, if I really want to go into it, it's the fact that Nesta takes on this wolf persona to protect her family, but never did. Right? This idea of my sisters, you know, they kicked us out, so I became the wolf. Except she did nothing. She didn't provide.
Right.
Her sister did. Her sister killed the wolf.
Yeah. Ugh. Look at those layers.
Layers. This is some of her best shit here, right? I'm telling you.
It really is.
I'm into
really
this book.
Well, that leads nicely into our question for the week.
Oh, we're not done.
Fuck. You're right.
Yeah, keep going.
Damn it. Okay, we're almost done, guys. We're going to wrap up the chapter with Cassian once again comparing Nesta to war. Quote, tomorrow would be a battlefield unlike any other he'd walked into. Cassian wondered how much of him would be left intact by the end of it. Yeah, so interacting with Nesta, training Nesta is going to be worse than the war with Hybern, which almost killed him twice. Maybe 3 times. Like, that's saying something, guys.
A little dramatic.
A little bit.
So Cassian's up late, and then Rhys is in between rounds of having sex, and he's just showing off at this point. He's like, Vera initiated the last round. Like, oh my God, keep your dick away or show me. Like, choose. And Rhys starts asking about Nesta, but in a very judgy way. Quote, Cassian didn't particularly want to have this conversation, not at 3 a.m, and certainly not twice in one day. His affection for Nesta is an apology. He is going to have to constantly need to defend her. And like, even if he's not defending her, it could just be like, I don't want to talk about it. But what I do like, though, is that he's never justifying his affection.
Yeah, I agree. But I can also understand, like, from his point of view, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting to want someone who nobody else wants around.
Yeah.
And who doesn't help themselves. So I see.
All right. You got a question for me?
I do have a question for you, Jack. How do you feel jumping back into Prithian? And does the text reorient us sufficiently?
I'm so rusty. I feel weird. Saying Lucian's name out loud was weird. Saying Tamlin. Who are these people? It feels like we're going back to school or like, I don't know. I truly believe that the only person who knows exactly what I'm feeling is you.
Yeah.
I love it, but I'm just like, it's weird.
It's very strange to like get back into these characters' heads. But what I like about it is it still feels like a new beginning because we are starting from Nesta and Cassian's point of view. As much as it might feel like showing rather than telling, I like that SJM is establishing so much of the emotional, mental...
Oh, you mean telling more than showing?
Sorry. Yes. Yes, you're right. Telling more than showing. I apologize. So the fact that we're getting all this information about mental, emotional state from Cassian and Nesta's point of view, it does feel like telling rather than showing, but we already know so much about these characters.
Yeah.
We've already seen these characters. We're going to see a lot more moving up. I think she does a really good job balancing telling us as well as showing us what's going on right now.
It needs to be a little bit of a previously on. It's so funny thinking that there's people in this world who say, should I read Frost and Starlight? And it's like, yes. Yeah. Like, just imagine going from ACOTAR to this. Like, no, you need that. You need the context. But even so, even with the context, you need so much more explained to you. And it is very brilliant in the way that it is telling me. I do not feel told at all. When you said it's telling, not showing, I'm like, oh, I guess you're right, but I don't feel that at all. Like, it's like laying out the groundwork, but there's just been so much groundwork. Like, she's earned this. She's earned this point of being able to tell us this stuff. Me personally, I feel weird being back. I feel like I'm back at the high school that I liked a lot. And then we got transferred to another school that was really cool. But like, you know, it's like, I feel like I'm back with an ex that I didn't know I wanted. I don't want any of my exes, I promise, Amy. But it is like a surreal thing to be here. I love it. And I'm sad because so far there's no other books for us to analyze after this in the ACOTAR world. She's got 12 weeks.
She's got to figure her shit out. I guess I'm happy to be back. I'm glad that we took a break after Frost and Starlight because I think I would have been too loyal to Feyre and Rhys.
Yeah.
To be objective, looking at this through Cassian and Nesta's point of view.
Agreed.
So I think that is healthy for all of us. I also think it's strange knowing how much we know about the universe reading this book because I didn't know anything when I read this book. I'm looking forward to the journey.
I also can tell from the break that we took, we say we break, but we like continued like 3 more years of other stuff. But we've done Crescent City. We've done Throne of Glass. I already know that this is my favorite writing. I already knew the writing style in the ACOTAR series was my favorite writing style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though this is third person, which is more like her other series, but the writing here is, for me personally, her best writing. And we know from what she's said in interviews that she was putting a lot of herself into this book because she herself was very depressed when she wrote this book. Now, I'm not saying that SJM said that she's, you know, was abusing sex, drugs, and rock and roll. No, we know she's married, but even if she was, no judgment. But like, that's not saying that she was. I'm just saying that, you know, just because she said she put a lot of herself, but all that means is like, there was a lot of emotions that she had that she put here and it shows. And I'm already like, this is my favorite writing style, writing technique of all of her books so far.
All right. Yeah. All right.
Sign off.
Thanks for listening to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy. Join us Thursday for our Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks discussion from today's chapters of Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Silver Flames.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps other readers find us. And, of course, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's episode. Share your comments through our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com, and we might feature your feedback in a future mini episode or a Patreon exclusive episode. Or leave a comment in the episode if you're on Spotify. What's up?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
We need to add that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah.
For merch and more ways to support the show, head to booktalkforbooktalk.com. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk. And don't forget, join us while we keep the analysis going by subscribing to our Substack to get more insights into the romantasy and romance genres. Head to the subtextsocietyjournal.substack.com. Bye.
We are going to so many book conventions the next couple months, and do I need a whole new wardrobe?
I think so, because I'm not prepared for weather in New York.
Honestly, I am not about the fast fashion. I am all about Quince and how they prefer quality over quantity.
Quince makes high-quality wardrobe staples using premium fabrics, like 100% silk and organic cotton.
They even have a lightweight cotton cashmere sweater that's perfect for the changing seasons, especially in New York. And they have amazing spring colors, so I'll be able to be very versatile with all of the cute sweaters they have.
Quince clothing is consistently rated 4.5 to 5 stars by thousands of customers. Real people wearing these pieces every day actually love them. And honestly, they're better than some of my favorite expensive brands.
I personally love my boyfriend sweater that I got last year, and I still wear it all the time. And I'm sad that it's going to be warm, so I guess I'm going to have to find another sweater.
Stop waiting to build the wardrobe you actually want. You don't need a closet full of options. You just need pieces that work for you.
Right now, go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping and 365-day returns.
That's a full year to wear it and love it. And you will.
Quince is now available in Canada too. Don't keep settling for clothes that don't last.
Go to quince.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, for free shipping and 365-day returns.
Quince.com/booktalk.
I'm preparing to get married, which means I'm thinking a lot about what it means to merge finances. And I think I'm going with Chime.
Chime isn't just another banking app. They unlock smarter banking for everyday people with products like MyPay, giving you access to up to $500 of your paycheck anytime and getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Some of these old banks still don't do this.
We're at Romantasy BookCon, and I don't get paid for another 2 days. I could really use Chime right now.
I don't get paid for another 2 days too. I'm really sad it's not stopping me from buying everything, but it is also making me want to switch to Chime.
Because they don't have overdraft fees, minimum balance fees, or monthly fees.
You can also earn up to 3% APY on savings. That's 7 times higher than a traditional bank.
It's also rated 5 stars by USA Today for customer service because they have real humans 24/7.
And with the Chime card, it's the new way to build credit history with your own money and get rewarded every single day.
There's no annual fees, no interest, and no strings attached. Who can resist that?
Chime is not just smarter banking, it's the most rewarding way to bank. Join the millions who are already banking fee-free today.
It just takes a few minutes to sign up. Head to chime.com/booktalk. That's chime.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK.
Chime is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services, a secured Chime Visa credit card, and MyPay line of credit provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. MyPay eligibility requirements apply, and credit limit ranges $20 to $500. Optional services and products may have fees or charges. See chime.com/fees info. Advertised annual percentage yield with Chime Plus status only. Otherwise, 1.00% APY applies. No min balance required. Chime card on-time payment history may have a positive impact on your credit score. Results may vary. See chime.com for details and applicable terms.
Struggling to find the right metabolic wellness support, even when you're doing everything right, has been one of the most frustrating things for me in my health journey.
I've tried other metabolic wellness support providers, and I often feel rejected rather than supported by the process.
That's because Brello is focused on long-term health, longevity, and performance, not quick fixes.
Brello is designed for people who want a more sustainable approach to their metabolic wellness support. Their support helps you focus on habits, education, and structure alongside provider oversight.
Getting my GLP-1 through Brello has been so easy. They make it so effortless, and they provide all the support I need through their app.
Their app is one of a kind in my book because it allows you to track progress, manage reminders, and stay on top of renewals. And if you're like me, managing the renewals is the hardest part.
Everything is managed online, making it easier to stay consistent over time, and medications are delivered to your door. They're so transparent with their pricing with one flat monthly cost. Go to BrelloHealth.com to see if you qualify and explore their GLP-1 plans, starting at $133 per month for your first 3 months, plus access to their app, community, and wellness classes. That's BRELLO health.com.
Any information provided is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. It is not a substitute for professional medical consultation, diagnosis, or treatment. All patients must consult with a healthcare provider prior to the prescription or dispensing of any medication, which will be done only pursuant to a valid prescription. Compounded drug products are not FDA approved, and the FDA does not evaluate their safety, effectiveness, or quality. Patients are encouraged to discuss the risks, benefits, and appropriateness of any medications, including compounded products, with their healthcare provider before use.